In this video, we're going to talk about the difference between the calculate function and the calculate table function. So on the previous video, we spoke about the calculate function and how we can use it to manipulate the filter context. And if you haven't watched that video, I'll leave you the link for the video down below in the description. But then there's another function that is similar to the calculate function, but not entirely the same, which is the calculate table function. So today we're gonna learn about the difference between the two functions and how we can use them to achieve our calculation goals. And we're gonna have an interesting example where we calculate the number of new customers that were acquired every day or month or year, and we're starting right now. All right, so let's start first by showing our data model. So our data model here is your typical AdventureWorks data model where you have the products table here linked to the sales table using the product ID column or product key column. And then you have the customers table. It's linked to the sales table using the customer key column here. The calendar table is linked to the sales table using the order date column here and the date column. And then the territories table is linked to the sales table using the territory ID or territory key column here. And we have a sales amount measure here that I created using the SUMX function. So it will simply iterate over the sales table row by row and multiply the order quantity by the unit price and then sum up all the results of that multiplication on each row. We've explained that previously on the video where we explained the difference between the filter context and the row context. So if you don't understand these concepts, I'd recommend you watch that video first, and the link will be down below in the description. And we explained the calculate function on the last video, and we said that the calculate function enables us to change the filter context for a calculation. So for example, we can create a measure to calculate the sales for the red products. So we have some products on the products table that have a red color, so we can use the calculate function here to calculate the sales amount for the products with the color being equal to red. And because the products table filters the sales table, then in this calculation, the sales would be filtered to only show the sales for the red products. And so this is the amount here, 7.72 million. And we can, of course, change that to a currency format so as to reflect dollars, because this is sales, this is money, so it should be a currency. So we managed to get a result for this calculation here because the calculate function is categorized or is what we call a scalar function. So a scalar function will produce a scalar result. It will just produce a value, all right? So the calculate function is a scalar function. It produces just a single value. However, if we do the same calculation here using the calculate table function, which is a similar function, but it's not entirely the same. So we'll create the same calculation using the calculate table. I'm just going to name here the measure with a suffix of calculate table just to distinguish it, to make it have a different name. And we'll replace the calculate function in the calculate table, but the first input for the calculate table is a table, it's not a measure. So if we give it the sales table here instead of the sales amount measure, and we do that calculation here and press enter, we create that measure and press enter, you will see here that we're getting an error because the expression refers to multiple columns. Multiple columns cannot be converted to a scalar value. And this is because the calculate table function produces a table. It doesn't produce a scalar value or just a single value. So if you drag it and drop it here and even make this a KPI card, you'll see here that you get an error. So we're not going to be able to view the result of this calculation because the calculate table produces a table. It doesn't produce a single value. We can view the result of this calculation though. So if we copy this and we go here and create a table, so we can go here to the table tools and then create a new table, and this table will be red product sales, and we just make it equal to this calculation here. So you can see here now we managed to get a result, and this is basically the sales table filtered for the products that are red in the products table. And you can see here that the resulting table has 4,949 rows. Another way to be able to show that table here is to use the DAX query view here, which is a relatively new view that's been added to Power BI in the last year or so. And so if we evaluate that a measure as well, which results in a table. You see here that we get a table and it has 4,949 rows as well. All right, so how can we use the calculate table to produce the sales for the red products? Well, we can actually create another measure here. So let's create another measure, and this will be sales for red products 2. And we can use the calculate function to calculate the sales amount. And because the filter for the calculate function is a table or a table expression, so we can insert the calculate table function, which produces a table, as a filter here on the calculate function. And this will actually produce a scalar value in this case. And it will be, of course, the same value that we have here, which is 7.72 million. So as you can see here, the main difference between the calculate function and the calculate table function is that the calculate function produces a scalar value, just a single value, and the calculate table function produces a table. All right, so we've shown simple examples here just to show the difference between calculate and calculate table. Next, we're going to show a real life example to calculate the number of new customers acquired for our store every day. All right, so now let's see an example to calculate the number of new customers that we acquired every day for our store. So let's insert a table visual here, and let's put the date column here from the calendar table. And let's actually just keep it as the date column, not the whole date hierarchy. And if we put the sales amount measure here, you can see here that the first date that we sold in our store is the 29th of December 2010. So this is actually when our store started working, and the last date is the 28th of January 2014. So our store started working on the 29th of December 2010 and stopped working in January 2014, 28th of January 2014. All right, so let's remove the sales amount measure here and let's add this new customers measure. So this is a measure where we utilize the calculate table to calculate the number of new customers that we acquired in our store every day. And by new customers, we mean customers that had not purchased from us before. So this means that on the 29th of December 2010, 5 new customers purchased from us. This was the first day that the store made sales, so these are the first 5 customers. But then on the 30th of December 2010, 4 new customers purchased from us. This means that we had 9 new customers in total on that date. 5 were older customers or customers that had purchased from us before, and then 4 customers were new customers that purchased from us on that date, on the 30th of December 2010, and so on and so forth. So we're trying to calculate the number of new customers that we acquired every day. All right, so let's show the calculation here on this measure. I didn't want to write the measure from scratch so as not to waste time writing the measure, but here is the measure and I'm going to explain it to you step by step here. So the first step here on this measure is to calculate the start date for our calculation. So the start date is basically the starting date when we're going to calculate the number of new customers that purchase from us. In case of a single date, like what we have here, so here we have a single date, so the start date is going to be the same as the end date. So we also calculate the end date, but the beauty of this measure is that we're able to do this calculation also for months and years. So I'll just show you that in a bit. All right, so first we calculate our start date here, which is the minimum value of the calendar date in the current filter context. And then we also calculate the end date, which is going to be the maximum value of the calendar date in the current filter context. So this will be useful in case, for example, we have a whole year in the tables. So this means that for a whole year, the minimum date is going to be the 1st of January in that year, and then the maximum date is going to be the 31st of December in that year. So the start date is going to be the 1st of January of that year, and the end date is going to be the 31st of December of that year. And then we also want to calculate the launch date of the store. So to calculate the launch date of the store, we're going to calculate the minimum value of the order date from the sales table. So this is the earliest date on the order date on our sales table, and we need to make sure to remove all filters from the date column on the calendar table in the current filter context. And we've explained that on the previous video when we explained the calculate function and we explained the all function as well. All right, and then we calculate the customers who purchased between our start date and our end date. So in this variable, we use the calculate table function. And what we do is that we get a unique list using the values function. So the values function, you can give it a column and it will produce a table of unique values. So this will produce a column of unique values for the customer keys of the customers from the sales table. So these are actual customers who purchased. And then we're going to add a filter as well, where we make sure to remove all filters from the date column on the calendar table, and we will basically filter for the date on the calendar table being between the start date and the end date. So this way, for example, if we have a whole year, we will get the list of customers who purchased on that whole year between the 1st of January of that year and the 31st of December of the same year. But then if we have just a single date in the table visual, then the start date is going to be the same as the end date, and it will be just the customers who purchased on that particular date. So basically this part here, this variable will give us a list of customers, basically a list of customers. It will give us customer IDs, the customer IDs for the customers who purchased between the start date and the end date. And then we'll also create another variable here for the customers who purchased since the launch date, where we're going to use the same technique here. We're going to create a table or a list of customers who purchased between the launch date, so when the date was greater than or equal to the launch date, and also less than the start date, so until the day before the start date in our filter context. So this will also produce a table of customer IDs here. So we'll also have some customer IDs, but these are the customer IDs who purchased since the launch date and up until the day before the filter context. So if it's a date, then it's up until the day before the date we have on the table, or if it is a whole year in the filter context, then it's going to be until the day before the 1st of January of that particular year. And then at the end, we're going to use the except function here. So the except function is basically going to remove any rows from the customers who purchased since the launch date. So any customers who purchased since the launch date will be removed from that list of customers who purchased on that particular date. So this will result in the customers who only purchased on that particular date or on that particular year. So we're just going to get the new customers in this case, because our aim is to get the new customers who purchased on that particular date. And then we're just going to count the rows. And because the list we have has the unique customer IDs, then counting the rows for the result will simply give us the number of the customers. So this is going to be our result here. We're going to obtain our result by counting the rows of the resulting table after removing the customer IDs for the customers who purchased since the launch date from the customer IDs who purchased on that particular day or that particular month or that particular year. So this will result in our new customers. So this will be our new customers basically. And let me show you also another diagram here to be able to clarify it to you a bit more. So let's say we have a customer number 11063 who purchased on any date. Let's say the 19th of February 2011. So this customer purchased on that date. We also have another customer here which is customer number 12,024 who purchased on the 19th of February 2011, but that customer as well has purchased on a previous date in this orange area here. So the orange area represents the previous dates, so the dates before the 19th of February 2011. So in this case, we would want to remove this customer because he's not a new customer. He's an old customer because he's purchased from us before. But we only want to keep this customer here, which is customer number 11063, because he's a new customer. He's never purchased from us before. And what we're trying to get is this green area here. The green area contains the customers who are new customers who haven't purchased from us before, and these are the customers who purchased on that date for the 19th of February 2011. But of course, this applies to all the dates. So 19th of February is just an arbitrary date, but we will apply the same concept for the calculation to all the dates, and we're trying to evaluate the new customers, the customers who had not purchased from us before. All right, so the result for that calculation, as you can see here, is the number of new customers who purchase from us every day. And then you can see here, as a proof that this calculation is correct, we have the total number of customers as 18,484. And if we check the number of customers that we have on our customers table, so where is our customers table? Here it is. You will see that the number of customers we have here is 18,484 because we have 18,484 rows, and each row on the customers table represents a customer because the customer table has a unique listing of our customer IDs or customer keys. So you can see here that this is a proof that the calculation is correct here. And the beauty of this calculation is that it doesn't only work for the dates, but it also works for the years, for example. So let's add the year instead of the date. So as you can see here, now we get the number of new customers that we acquired every year. We only acquired 14 customers in 2010 because our store actually started at the very end of 2010. It started, I believe, the 29th of December. So we only spent like 3 days working in 2010 on this store. So we only acquired 14 customers. But then, as you can see here, this calculation works also for years. So we get the number of new customers that we acquired every year. And the total is the same as well, 18,484. Which is the total number for our customers, and this will work for any column that we use from our calendar table. Alright guys, so this concludes our video today where we explained the difference between the calculate function and the calculate table function, and we showed a practical example for using the calculate table function to calculate the number of new customers that we acquired every day or every month or every year on our store. So if you found the video helpful, please make sure to like and share the video and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified with all future videos. And please make sure to follow us on our social media. You'll find the links down below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.